Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Luis. I like to analyze media and comment on social issues. If you like that, stick around, suss out the vibe, get comfy. Today, we're going to be talking about Beastars. This anime has taken the world by storm, I think just because it was a furry anime on Netflix and they freaked out because they saw rabbit boobs. This show definitely had a freak factor that made people watch it. Kind of like Shrek is Love, Shrek is Life. People just had to see it so they could joke about it with their friends. Just so you all know, this video will not be a play-by-play of the first season. However, I will be going into details about major plot points, so spoilers ahead. To fully understand this video, you will have to have watched the first season. If you haven't and don't care to, give your boy the views anyway. So now to get into what I liked overall, it caught my attention. I have the attention span of a goldfish when it comes to anime these days. I no longer have the attention span to watch anything with a slow start. This anime gets a lot of props for starting the series with a bang. And by a bang, I mean a murder. The first scene sets the tone right at the beginning of the series that this world is cruel and complicated. They're herbivores and carnivores trying to live in harmony, and it's not perfect. One thing that I can appreciate in any form of media is when world building is detailed. I'm talking macro and micro level kind of detailed, from things as big as social hierarchies and the black market to something as small as what they eat. Speaking of what they eat, now would be a good time to point out the cameo of the creator did in the show. Carnivores legally can't eat meat, so they get a lot of their protein from eggs. Since everyone is an animal, someone has to lay the eggs. This is where our beloved creator of Beastars, Maparu Itagaki, comes in. Her persona is a chicken. In fact, she prefers not to show her face, so she does all of her public appearances in this chicken mask. Her chicken persona makes an appearance in one of the episodes before the opening credits. Her character is obsessed with laying the best quality eggs for carnivore consumption. This chicken is serious. Like, she wakes up and goes to sleep at a set time. She says no to going out. She has a strict workout regimen. She goes hard. It was a super cute cameo, even though it was super bizarre. A smart thing this series does is use the world building in place of fluff or filler. The best way to use it, in my opinion. Just to keep your audience engaged and make the most out of every minute. There were many micro-level world-building characteristics that I found charming. The fact that Legoshi shared a dorm with other dogs like he was in a pack was genuinely charming to me. Now for some macro-level world-building. I loved the inclusion of the black market in the series. It followed the tone of the show, the fact that this world is complicated, corrupt, and contradicting, much like our society. I also stuck with this anime to figure out the characters. I watched the whole first season to understand Legoshi. To me, he seemed extremely complicated, and I wanted to understand his point of view. The character that made me stick around was Louis. And no, it wasn't because of those big, beautiful deer eyes of his. It was because of his voice actor. Yuki Ono did such a good job. The man acted his ass off. If I was going to show someone what good voice acting or just acting is, I would show them a clip of Louis. It was just that good. Lastly, I love how the show was recorded. Granted, I didn't find this out until after I saw the first season, but the show was acted out by the voice actors themselves on a set. This was done so the dialogue could feel as natural as possible, and I'd say it worked. It sounded like genuine conversations between real people. This was probably done to give as much life and humanity to these anthropomorphic animals as they could to further pull you into their world. So those were my overall thoughts on what I liked about the anime. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty, which is the character analyses of the three main characters of this season: Legoshi, Louis, and Haru. Seeing the season the first time around, I really wanted to say that Legoshi was a boring character. To me, something just felt off. He's an introvert, but he's portrayed differently from other well-beloved introverts in anime, like Midoriya from My Hero or Mob from Mob Psycho. For a big portion of the season, I didn't understand his motives. Some things felt contradictory to me, say the situation where Kai picks a fight with Louis. Legoshi intervenes very aggressively, however, when he's confronted by Louis, he's all meek. That explanation might be a little gay, but shh, the straight people might hear us. I later realized that he doesn't like seeing conflict between other people, and he's much quicker to stand up for other people than he is for himself, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. Legoshi's journey throughout the series so far is him trying to answer really big questions and challenging his morals and values. This all starts with his twisted attraction to Haru. He asks himself whether he wants to love her or eat her. Is it possible for me to love someone I instinctively see as prey? Can I live with myself after eating another person? What do I do with my strength? Do I protect or cause harm? This kid is asking the real big brain questions here. What I've learned about Legoshi upon rewatching the show is that he is considerate and an active ally. He genuinely cares about the people around him and doesn't pay much attention to social hierarchy, and will go out of his way to defend those in need of defending. For example, he knows exactly how other people view Haru, and is fine associating with her anyway, as well as going out of his way to de-escalate several violent situations. Legoshi also has a strong sense of right and wrong. This is probably exacerbated by his situation with Haru, but this is shown when he violently confronts Bill for having rabbit's blood. While at first glance, this all seemed like a teenager dealing with his feelings, but upon revisiting, Legoshi is a bona fide complicated character. Now, let's get into this bit for this character, alright? I really thought Legoshi was a creep. Certain scenes made it really hard to root for the guy. Right before writing the script, I wanted to drag Legoshi's name through the mud. That was until I caught wind that he might be autistic coded. Then suddenly, all of his creepy little quirks and contradictions started to make perfect sense. Some big characteristics of autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, include social impairment and communication difficulties, which I would argue is extremely prominent with Legoshi. The example that I have absolutely floored me as a viewer and made me want to write him off as some gross guy. The scene that I'm bringing up in particular is a scene in episode 8 where Legoshi is accompanying Haru back to campus from the city on the subway. In short, what happens is he grabs her, she tells him to let go, he refuses, which concerns bystanders, and they alert the local authorities. Some people might not have thought much about this scene, but it was packed. First, we got the violation of boundaries, him grabbing her. Second, we got the violation of consent, she says let go, he refuses. Third, we got Legoshi navigating the whole situation like Haru doesn't have more social power and privilege than him. What I mean by this is all Haru has to do is cry for help and Legoshi ends up in a cell. Haru even says this when they are running from the authorities. Their government protects herbivores much more than they do carnivores. This scenario has a real-world parallel to how white women can use their privilege to put men of color, more often black men, in jail, whether the reason being true or not. I understand this anime was made by a Japanese person and was made with an Eastern perspective in mind, but I live in a Western society and this specific parallel, whether intentional or not, is really easy to make. With that being said, Legoshi's society views him very similarly to a black man. Many characters in the series, at face value, have seen him as inherently violent, suspicious, and intimidating, all because of the body he inhabits. Legoshi can also represent the intersection of a black man and a mentally disabled person. This means that in this moment, Legoshi is not aware of Haru's privilege and how that can put his life at risk. Many police officers cannot tell the difference between dangerous criminals and someone with ASD having a meltdown. There's a lot more I can say about this issue, but I'm just touching on the parallels for this specific scenario. Now we're going to talk about Legoshi's relationships with the other main characters, starting with our boy, Louis. Their relationship is interesting. They're not friends, but Legoshi seems to have a high respect for him, which is odd because almost none of their interactions are pleasant. Like, all Louis ever does is invade his personal space, talks down to him, or assaults him. Other than that, Legoshi is a huge Louis simp for most of the season. There are even points where he's just straight up gawking at the guy, and again, kinda gay. Legoshi genuinely cares about what he thinks and takes it to heart. Legoshi also seems to feel a little bad for him for having to be a public figure at such a young age. The only time this stops is when he sees Louis as a threat to his relationship with Haru. This might be a symptom of his autism, but he might not see how bad his relationship is with Louis. Also, teenagers are just bad at advocating for themselves. So now we're going to talk about the elephant in the room, the relationship between Legoshi and Haru. I don't like it. They had a pretty poor start. He tried to eat her, you know. Yeah, the mismatch alone was enough to get me watching out of sheer curiosity. I wanted to see if it would work out, and it kind of doesn't. I know I talked all this time about how Legoshi is not actually being a creep, but he was still creepy. There are times he would just loom over Haru. My biggest problem would be this little writing inconsistency that I've noticed in Legoshi and Haru. So Legoshi likes how Haru treats him like a male. I can't think of any explanation for that phrase that doesn't tie itself to toxic masculinity and misogyny. Could it be that she doesn't emasculate him? Which I don't see how she treats him all that differently compared to other female characters. Literally, besides Juno, like every other female character is just fucking terrified of him. I just think that line's super gross. One big gripe that I have, which honestly, my gripe with society in general, that they don't make a distinction between lust or love. Legoshi really only talks about how Haru makes him feel, which doesn't include how she feels for him. He doesn't know shit about Haru. They barely talked, and you expect me to believe that he loves her? Love needs to blossom mutually while having extensive knowledge of the other person. Legoshi does feel strongly about Haru, but we find out at the end of the season that it comes from the subconscious desire to eat her, which honestly ruins the romance aspect of the series. This might be the whole trope about how they didn't get together for the right reasons, but they love each other anyway, which I guess I'm still not thrilled about it. Now it's time to talk about our favorite damaged boy, Louis. Now, like I said before, the super heckin' cute and valid Yuki Ono did a phenomenal job voicing this character. At the start of the season, Louis just seems like a bully. He's super mean and borderline abusive to those closest to him, and seems so approachable and nice to those viewing him from afar. He acts more like a politician than he does a teenager. He pretty much lives in this fishbowl. Everyone knows who he is. If he does anything, people are going to talk about it. This is a lot for an 18-year-old to have on his plate. This pressure to be perfect and a great leader stems from his upbringing. In a flashback, we see that Louis was raised to be meat for the black market. His father, an extremely powerful business owner, liked how he had a strong sense of justice for being a feral child that couldn't speak. His father adopted him as his sole heir and gave him the task to change the world. That is a lot to put on a 5-year-old, not gonna lie. I can imagine why he's so damaged. Louis' journey throughout the season is a journey of selflessness. He goes through great lengths to uphold his image, like hiding the fact that he sheds his antlers so he doesn't show any kind of weakness. Most of his actions throughout the series are to maintain his image. Throughout the season, he gets weary of putting on this act of having to be the perfect person and being much stronger than he is. At the end of the season, when Haru gets kidnapped by the Shishigumi, Louis goes in and kills the boss before he can kill Legoshi. This is Louis' big selfless act at the end of the storyline in the season, finally standing up for someone else, not caring so much about what happens to him. Louis has a passion for acting, which he takes very seriously. He's not the president, but he's who the cast and crew look to for motivation and inspiration. Louis has this superiority complex that's most likely projected onto him by his father. He keeps these walls up to keep people at bay so they don't see his genuine emotions, and keeps people below him to establish his dominance. He seems to do this to compensate for being a deer. Most people in this world wouldn't see a deer as intimidating, especially through the eyes of a carnivore. He does this overcompensating in many ways, such as hiding his injuries, hiding his more vulnerable emotions, and just straight up assaulting Legoshi. So, like I said before, Louis' relationship with Legoshi is strained. He's a bully to Legoshi at least. A big reason for this is that he's frustrated with Legoshi. Legoshi is timid and underplays his strength. Louis is frustrated by this because he thinks his potential is being wasted by pretending he is weaker than he actually is. There's also this added frustration that Louis has to do this entire song and dance to be seen as intimidating, while Louis' presence alone is enough to do the same thing. That's basically their dynamic. Legoshi isn't really on Louis' radar. I might even call Louis a secondary protagonist, only because we shift to Louis' perspective many times and his narrative isn't driven by Legoshi's actions, at least most of the time. For Louis' relationship with Haru, there isn't too much here. He seems to be close to her, but they need to keep the relationship under wraps because of Haru's status. His image would be compromised. He feels like he can be a little more vulnerable with Haru, however, not completely. When Haru is kidnapped by the Lion Mafia, he is really quick to give up and not do anything, which, honestly, who can blame him? He's a teenager. What the hell are you supposed to do when a friend of yours gets napped by a bunch of feline yakuzas? Like, what the fuck? But anyway, after Legoshi barrels through the Shishigumi like a madman, Louis goes in and kills the boss before he can have a chance to kill Legoshi from afar. This would be a callback to his strong sense of justice that he had as a child, standing up for other people while not caring about his image. Alright, now is the time for the little rabbit herself, the rabbit that caused all the drama and commotion, Haru. They really dropped the ball on this one. Haru had so much potential. They really could have shown the perspective of a slut-shamed high school girl and really given her character depth, but they didn't. The first episode was kind of all we got. They never really went further with her character. After the first episode, she just becomes the love interest, which really limits her writing. In the show, we see that she has a strong will, she's independent, jaded, and a bit of a nihilist. Honestly, relatable content. Her personality serves as a nice contrast to Legoshi, who is an optimist. While watching the season for like the 4th time to make this video, there seems to be this force, the writing, that pushes her to rely on a man. In the beginning, There's also this pretty heavy-handed way the other characters talked about her that was really demeaning. A few characters talked about her like she's too small and fragile to do anything. They're so surprised that she goes anywhere alone or does anything without the help of another person. Like she might as well just shrivel up and disappear because she doesn't have any help. Now, we need to talk about a very small scene that made me so incredibly angry. I call this the shoe scene. This was when she first hung out with Legoshi. She bends down to buckle her shoe. Her shoe has one little snap button, and for some reason, she can't button it. So Legoshi has to do it for her. Then they meet eyes and have this little romantic moment. I felt like I was watching an infomercial. You know, the ones where they have the B-roll of people just suddenly losing all motor function. Like, oh my god, oh, my fingers, oh my god, oh, where's my wolf boyfriend when I need him? Wow. Gee whiz. Like, what's wrong with you? There's even cinematic irony in the scene where she stands up to her bullies. She does this whole speech, and it falls on deaf ears because they're scared of Legoshi. She even says the words, "I'm free," where the camera pans out to show Legoshi standing over her to imply that she's not free at all. I cannot make this stuff up, people. Later on in the season, Haru gets kidnapped by the Shishigumi to be eaten, which, in hindsight, makes no sense. This is a gang of lions, and I'm pretty sure one tiny rabbit isn't going to feed one lion, much less 20 or so. Other than that, once she's kidnapped, Legoshi goes crazy and recklessly tries to save her. Louis is distraught when he is told by the mayor that this happened. He wants to stop it, but he knows there's not much he can do about it. But of course, Legoshi comes to rescue her. While Haru is being held captive, she is stripped and humiliated, which is what the straight furry boys want to see, I'm assuming. In her mind's eye, Haru starts writing her will. Pretty fucking grim, I know. She goes more into her background and childhood, and we as an audience get more backstory for her. I'm not going to go into detail about the whole flashback, but I have a gripe with one part. The part where this boy from her middle school confesses his feelings for her. It just rubs me the wrong way. He confesses his feelings and just goes in for the kiss? She didn't say how she felt about him. It also doesn't seem like she didn't have the idea to have sex with him either. There could have easily been a muted clip of her at least expressing some kind of interest in him. I don't know. The whole part of this flashback was just unsettling. Now, to talk about her relationship with Legoshi, because apparently that's all Haru's good for. The relationship is shit. Most of the time she knows him, she's confused about what his motives are. Honestly, can't blame her. She's not just confused, she's scared of him most of the time. She does give him a chance, which I guess makes her patient. I guess? But all in all, she has a realistic view of the situation. She doesn't see it going well while also having some feelings for him. Haru's relationship with Louis honestly seems way less stressful. She likes him because there's this mystery and sadness to him, because he's damaged. And she's not all that happy either, so when they're together, they can be a little less sad. This is already way better than her and Legoshi. But, you know, since Haru's the school thought, they can't be open about their friends with benefit situation because of Louis' status. That and the fact that Louis' marriage has already been arranged. So for Haru, we have even more examples of bad writing, specifically for her dialogue. After Haru gets rescued, her and Legoshi go to a love motel. Here is where Legoshi confesses to being the one who tried to eat her. Then Haru confesses that she figured shortly after properly meeting him. This is why she was so scared of him and wanted to know what his motives were. However, when this happens, she gives him the option to do whatever he wants. In this scenario, this means either to ravish her or eat her. What? So you just got saved from lions who wanted to eat you, but now your wolf boy toy wants to eat you and it's completely fine? She's literally saying, if you want to kill me, I wouldn't mind. This goes against how she acted the entire season. Just because she's a rabbit, she's supposed to be okay with dying? What kind of message is that? This is the part of the show where I became certain that there was an eating fetish undertone to this show. The next scene that pisses me off is the scene where they try to have sex, and on instinct, Haru shoves her forearm into Legoshi's mouth. They framed it like her body just wanted to be eaten by him, which is completely not true. If anyone watching has been around big dogs, you would know that if a dog is getting a little bitey, you just shove your hand into their mouth to prop open their jaw so they won't be able to bite you. This is exactly what Haru was doing. This was a survival instinct, not her wanting to be eaten. Honestly, if this wasn't high fantasy and people were actually being eaten by other people in our reality, this would be extremely offensive and problematic. Now for some closing thoughts on Haru. They obviously had no idea what they wanted to do with her, so it ended up being a shit show. If I'm being honest, the way that she's written, I wouldn't have guessed the series creator would be a woman. In fact, finding that out just makes me even more disappointed. Well, that was a long ride. I really hope you enjoyed my thoughts and perspective on Beastars Season 1. I will be doing a video on Season 2 eventually. Thank you so much for watching to the end. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up, maybe even subscribe. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.